Make sure you're subscribed to JerCrispy.
What's up, y'all? It shows most that's most. JerCrispy, welcome back to another video. The weird Gravity Falls conspiracy finally solved. Damn. I heard from my mouth. That's why I felt confused. Conspiracy work kind of slow. Hands in my side of my mouth. My pocket. If you like, comment, subscribe, follow. So me gonna pop on the screen. Yeah.
Finished. Well, I did not. So, when doing my yearly rewatch of Gravity Falls, this time I was looking for new things that could turn into a theory. Things nobody have found in this decades-old show with decades worth of theories. And well, at first, things did not look very good. This show by now is pretty old actually, and any meaningful conspiracy to it has been uncovered. Gravity Falls has basically been solved. Until I got to Season 1, Episode 8, Irrational Treasure. This episode felt different. It felt bigger. Like there was a plot that was gonna happen with this episode that just didn't. Now, of course, I've seen this episode countless times, but because I was looking for new things, I found new things. And it all starts with this government document. This single weird government document explains national secrets that nobody knows about, like how the government is run not by the elected president or even as a democracy, but according to this document, the current and forever president of the United States is actually Santa Claus, and the United States as a country is not a democracy, but a gyrocracy. And Mount Rushmore is a robotic warforce ready for battle. I will get to that. What could this possibly all mean? Well, nothing. It's just a throwaway joke for a cartoon. Literally in the text, it references throwaway jokes. Obviously, this is not a line of lore that can be traced and backed up, right?
A long time ago, I designed a prototype for Ronald Reagan's masters.
Ronald Reagan has a literal master. Ronald Reagan is a fake president. This aligns perfectly with the other presidents, like Lincoln, who was apparently 2 kids in a trench coat, or a few presidents who are apparently just robots. It seems like every US president, in some sort of way, is a fake stand-in puppet for the real secret mastermind. The actual, eternal, never-dying US president, Santa Claus. Let me explain.
Alright.
Now, this theory starts out with Ford Pines, who, due to his line about Reagan's masters, really did kick off this whole idea. So, I did some research on the dates of certain events and how they align with Ford, and came to this conclusion. Ronald Reagan began presidency in 1981, the same year Ford found Bill. He also began his political efforts into becoming president in 1975, the same year Ford arrived in Gravity Falls in the first place. We can assume between these 6 years, the actual mind-controlling tie was invented by Ford for the Santa Claus-run government. The question is, was it invented before or after Bill? The reason I ask this is because based on if Bill had to make it or not, it decides on if Bill is on the side of Santa Claus. I promise this is very important. Now, based on information I will reveal later, I believe it is before Bill came into the scenario, which means he did it for a reason. And when trying to figure out what that reason could be, I came to the idea that maybe the Santa Claus government, being an overreaching, secret, powerful force, knew about Gravity Falls and gave the information to Ford, which led him to all his great discoveries. Just an idea not really that important. What is important is the apparent contradiction to Santa Claus and him running the government, found in the fact that apparently Bill created the United States. Let me explain.
Oh. Hey, Bill created the United States. Why he trying to destroy Gravity Falls? And he was trying to get out of the Gravity Falls and spread his thing, like endless parties and stuff like that. Oh, good.
According to the Book of Bill and some evidence in the actual show, it seems Bill may have at very least once run the US government before Santa Claus. Basically, in the book, he explains how he made a deal with the founding fathers, mainly Washington, to fight the British for them in exchange for, well, literally running the government. Apparently, he even got editorial power on the Constitution. There's a bunch of more references to this idea that he ran the government and how he's literally on the dollar bill, which, to be fair, is actually named after him. But I do believe I have a few ideas that are so far canon. Bill Cipher created the United States, most likely with the intention of having people settle in Gravity Falls, where it can use its weirdness to create his portal. Then something happened that left the power vacuum for Santa Claus to take over, which does lead me to assume Bill and Santa are on great terms. Now, surprisingly, this gets even more complicated when you realize the Freemasons also somehow relate to this theory. As well, in Journal 3, their logo was drawn when talking about what was going on with the founding of Gravity Falls, the Northwest, and America. Now, this brings us to three things. A, the founding of Gravity Falls is of course very important as it was done by an actual US president, and the second point being is that the Freemasons connect to Bill, which would make sense as the Northwest have Art of Bill in their home, and immediately has to worship and be his human followers when he appears in Gravity Falls. Now, for the third and final point, George Washington in real life was a Freemason, and while according to Bill, was controlled by Bill. This makes me believe that in-universe Freemasons are just followers of Bill Cipher, basically just using the name and some of the imagery from the real-life Freemasons. I would even combine the Illuminati, as it's basically just Bill Cipher's cult with the Illuminati logo being a triangle. At the end of the day, I think all secret societies in Gravity Falls probably are the same one worshipping Bill Cipher. At least, that's what I thought. See, originally I had very short plans for this video. Everything I had covered so far was all there was to cover. It seemed like this conspiracy was simply not an actual conspiracy, but I hadn't done deep research in every single possible combination of this is on a website or gone through every page of the Book of Bill, so there was technically more for me to find. And well, once I did, just to see if I could add more to this theory, the entire theory changed simply because the discovery of a new character who changes this entire dynamic. I had discovered another character very similar to Bill Cipher, Kronos, or originally named Andrew. Kronos is one of the many henchman characters of Bill that has a lot of lore, or at least hints of lore, that make him stand out. For one, he is literally the Freemason logo. Some earlier concept art even make it more clear, but in this show he is very much the Freemason compass, being based on a ruler and compass. He is also named after the crypto cipher, very similar to Bill Cipher, adding connections between them. He also originally had a human name, which only Bill has, giving him another connection to Bill that had seemed to be lost in the production of the show. Now, there is a high likelihood all these similarities come from one reason. He is also from the second dimension, a dimension according to Bill, only he survived after destroying it. Now, for more proof he is from this dimension, well, the guy is a two-dimensional shape with one eye, a high-pitched voice with some sort of audio effect on it like Bill, which no other henchmen have, and he's also very similar character in terms of power and how he flies, and has a pink aura, with even pink fire and concept art with him having blue. Plus, the guys both have secret societies with the Freemasons and the Illuminati. It just seems so likely these two are not only just connected, but definitely both from the second dimension, with Bill lying for some reason about being the only survivor. But, to be fair, you probably still don't fully believe me, because without an answer on why he would lie, we really can't know if any of this is real. And I assume even with all this lore and potential story, the creators didn't go out of their way to give us more details on the relationship between Bill and this random background character, right? Alex Hirsch, the creator.
So you telling me, allegedly, cause ain't Bill said he killed everybody off his team? He was part of the Bill thing. You think Andrew was actually his brother on some stuff like that? Cause they said Bill did have a brother, so Andrew could be his brother.
Of Gravity Falls once did an AMA where he was Bill Cipher. In this AMA, he was asked what is someone he hates, and he replies, Kronos. He literally hates the man. Of course he would lie about being the sole survivor. He probably hates him for surviving. And really, if you apply the new knowledge of Kronos to the old theory, it's more likely Kronos is the one who created America and made deals with Washington because Washington is a Freemason. It makes more sense for the Freemason guy to be controlling the Freemason founder. This makes me assume Bill just took credit for something someone else did, which is totally in his character, as he is an egotistical, lying, hateful person who will do anything to spite someone he doesn't like. Which leads me to my new theory.
What?
Kronos, for some reason, wants the same thing as Bill, or at least is doing something that is getting the same results, wanting to control the world at the very least, but maybe not building some crazy portal. He creates the Freemasons just do a bunch of things for him, which I think would actually end up helping Bill, as they're just getting closer to getting what he wants, but because it's Bill Cipher, he is too egotistical to let someone else be the main character in his story. So he does petty stuff like getting himself on the dollar bill and making failed attempts to take over the government from Kronos, who I think the US government also doesn't like being controlled by. Now this is the part where things get really complicated. We still need Santa Claus to somehow take over the US government and turn it into an internal jollyocracy. And well, I actually think I know how. Let me explain.
How did Santa Claus take over the government?
See, I think the one thing that could help us with finding out more about Santa Claus is going back to the one place he has ever referenced, this government document. See, we learned 3 things in this document, and I think point 2 is probably the one we should start with. Apparently, the Founding Father statues are robots to defend America in a state of war. These statues were first created in 1834. This does not make sense.
So you're saying basically the Mount Rushmores are basically robots and on a mountain waiting for the perfect time just to go to war. And like gravity falls theory, not in real life, but gravity falls theory, actually speaking.
Like, I know it's Gravity Falls, the US government is literally run by Santa Claus, so things can be weird, but still, I'm very confused, and more importantly, I need something for this stupid lore I'm really drastic.
And Santa Claus was supposed to be governor. How did he end up being mayor, though, as in general? What happened to Santa Claus at this part? Why did he end up being mayor? Mr. Get him, get him, get him! Like, why did he end up being mayor then?
Straws for. Now, if we as a government did not have technology in 1834 to make these robots, who actually would? Well, no earthly government would at this time, so we're kind of left with something supernatural. And out of all beings, Santa Claus, a man known for having elves who build things and tinker, he would make sense. So maybe he was contracted out like Ford was, building these robots for Kronos, or maybe even a newly liberated government and needing a protection. And maybe it wasn't just for good reasons, but actually was a Trojan horse. My idea is that Santa Claus created these robots as a distraction or some way to get an army into the nation, and after a great battle, took over the government. At least in the background, becoming the eternal only president and creating a jollyocracy. Now, after finally, in my opinion, solving at the very least the history and how Santa Claus took over, I still have a few questions. Who is Santa Claus? How does he fit in the wider cosmic universe of Gravity Falls? And is there more to the theory that I haven't even found yet? Well, to solve all these questions, I had to look at the 3rd and final point of the government document, and to be honest, the craziest part, that an evil time baby god is frozen in ice in Antarctica. What is happening?
Baby Time Lord.
Okay, so this is like obviously a reference to Time Baby. Now the weird thing is that this paper and all the info is not from Bill, but simply a government document, meaning this is not influenced by Bill, but just what the government believes about Time Baby, which means Santa Claus believes a Time Baby to be evil. Why? Well, first things first, Time Baby and Santa Claus do seem to have some similarities. They both are ageless beings, as Santa Claus has to be immortal to run the US government for centuries, and Time Baby just is immortal immortal and unkillable. They also are both time-related beings, as Santa still does the whole Christmas thing. This leads us to finally having to go over the hidden lore of Time Baby, which is, very weird. Time Baby is a force of nature. He is the literal embodiment of the cosmic energy that governs.
In general, if Time Baby knew he was about to die earlier, why did he didn't stop time before Bill Cipher even did all this, right? Why did he not travel back in time? Is Bill Cipher powerful than the Time Baby as we speaking? Like, we'll never know that.
Time, so he is not bound to the same morals as humans or really anyone. He has morals or more duties to protect the timeline, which does put him against Bill, but he also does straight up kill people for literally no reason, or after being reborn in his tantrum causes the apocalypse. He, simply put, is a force of nature, a god. Now in the show, the amount of appearances of Time Baby not only are very limited, being down to 3, but because he is also time-based, are kinda out of order. The first one is when the Pines are running from the time police and they're stopped by him, who seems to be ruling the entire planet as a dictator. The guy kinda seems like a mixture of Doctor Doom and Galactus. The second appearance is when we see him in the year 3012 destroying the planet in the apocalypse. The final appearance is then in Weirmageddon, where he and the time police try to stop Bill and he kills them. But he does say in 1,000 years his atoms will repair themselves back together and the baby will awaken in a tantrum that will end the world, which does happen as 1,000 years after 2012 is 3012, the literal apocalypse we do see. These scenes are very small and obviously a little out of order because there are technical multiple time babies based on the timeline and who killed him and just time shenanigans. Except that's not exactly true. There's actually one more appearance of Time Baby. If you go to This Is On a Website, ARG website, you will find a computer, and in that computer you put in the word tantrum, you will get a full transcript and even art of the conversation between Bill Cipher and Time Baby at the beginning of the universe, right when he destroys his own dimension and was planning to go to ours. This goes about as well as you would expect. Bill talks about chaos and fun and how they'll all die anyway, and Time Baby talks about his sacred duty to the timeline and how he cannot let Bill disrupt that. That it's written in the history of all timelines that this is the moment deciding the fate of the planet, and it's between.
So is it Gravity Falls going backwards then, as we speaking? Because Time Baby actually is taking over in 3012, right? I know we damn near not gonna be there a lot, but 2030. If he actually was taking over in 2030, and Bill Cipher, him already had a talk, allegedly had a talk. What was the reason him destroying his own spot, his own place? What was the reason of that though? And why is he conversating with Bill? And if he know, as Time Baby knew, why he end up dying and he might know time already?
Bill and him. Finally, we have Bill killing Time Baby, or more trapping him in the Arctic of Earth, which does confirm, of course, that the evil baby in the Arctic is Time Baby still trapped and waiting. But that's not all of the transcript. No, things get a little weirder. We get real lore that is entirely new with new characters, an entire war we didn't know about, and a solution to all of this theory's problems. And it all comes down to Time Baby's origin. In his words, he was forged in the crucible of reality itself, the last survivor of the War of the Time Giants. His celestial creators, grandmother and grandfather clock, gifted him with the burden of protecting the timeline from those who dare unweave it. This is single-handedly the greatest new piece of lore in the entire Gravity Falls canon that nobody talks about. The single thing that changes everything, giving us a solution to who Time Baby is, a finishing off the cosmic power of this multiverse, and hence to a literal war of the gods. I even have some ideas on who these celestial creators could be. I actually plan to do a big theory on how Gravity Falls, Owl House, and all these Disney shows connecting, what that means, but I'll save all that for that video. But the
I think Rick and Morty got something to do with that too, because it was like in one of the missions too. The cups and stuff, and Rick was on inside the book too, saying Rick was here and stuff like that. So I think they got something to do with Rick and them too.
In the Time War with the Time Giants is very important to this one. It all goes back to Santa Claus, who in most people's minds and most mythologies is a big, jolly, large man who seems to have some time warping powers. And in the show, his enemy's the Time Baby. So, what if Santa Claus is the last survivor of a Time Giant? Or he's the Time Giant's last ditch effort to live on, just like the Celestial creators made Time Baby. Just like Time Baby, maybe he's an unkillable, always living god of time. And like how Time Baby at many points in time rules the earth, Santa Claus also rules, ruling America as the secret only president for eternity. This is the greatest Gravity Falls conspiracy, one of politics, decades of lore, one of gods manipulating not only humans they watch, but also each other, and all building to one very jolly man. And somehow it's not over. That's right, there's still more to this theory. Let me explain.
Why?
The new Auto-Tune 2026 has been in the gym and it's dropped some weight, same accuracy, but
Just tell me why ain't nothing but a party. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistakes. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way.
The final part of this theory, why? Why is Santa Claus doing any of this? And really, how? How is this trillion-year cosmic being still kicking around, being president and having a side career as a home invader? It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't need to. Most theories wouldn't really solve the why of Santa Claus doing any of this. In most cases, it's just because. But in this case, I found an answer, and of course, it's because of good old Bill. This is a guide on immortality made by Bill Cipher and may actually solve on how Santa is still alive and why he is who he is. First off, apparently putting your soul in a snowman is a method of immortality, which I wouldn't doubt to be what Santa did, but there's an even more interesting idea here, that to be immortal is to be an idea, to become a story. In this text, word from word, Bill says that reality is both made of physical atoms and stories. Stories carry through the minds of humans for generations and are able to keep you alive, as stories turn you into a constant of reality itself. It's why Bill does everything he does, to be remembered, because to be remembered is to be physically immortal. If enough people can't forget your impact, if enough people have let you seep in their mind, you can't die. It's why Time Baby can't die. You can't kill the concept of time. You can't kill the concept of age, of birth, of any of it, because you can't kill an idea. And it's also why Santa Claus is still kicking around. You can't kill the story of the man. He's a folk hero, a myth of legend. He may go by different names, but everyone knows a name. Every child is told about him, whether it's through marketing campaigns from Coca-Cola or a Christmas movie telling you to be good. He's a story that can't die. A story that would keep him alive forever and keep him the eternal and only president.
Damn, bro. That's crazy. All right, hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow our social media that pop on the screen. We're on the road to 500, and I'm out.